So in today's video, we're going to go through the process of how I built this double gate that's 12 foot wide here. So stick around for the video and find out how I done it. Alright, this morning I'm back out here trying to figure out this gate. I already took measurements and cut my rails. So right now I've just got a clamp on each one of my posts to help hold that top rail up there. I'm just going to come in from the back side with some screws and attach that rail to that post. So I'm going to try to build this gate in place. Alright, so on these rails here, I just come in and put a screw right in the middle just to hold them into place, because I'm going to pull them back out once I get the gate built. Alright, I'm going to come back and measure each one of these, find my center point and start from there. Alright, so I come back and measured, I marked a 1 inch in the middle for my latch, and then I marked a 1/2 inch on each side. That way when I cut them back, there'll be a 1/2 inch gap on each hinge side is going to be 1/2 inch. I think that'll work pretty good. The strap hinges I have are 8 inches, so now I need to get my diagonals cut. The way to do that support brace there, I just come off of my mark down here where I had my where I marked over for my 1/2 inch for my hinge, or my gap for my hinge. So I set the corner of the board right there, and then I just kind of set my speed square up there until I got it to a 45. They say if you go past a 45, it's not as strong, so I'm going to keep it right at a 45. So my 1 inch mark is right there, where my gate's going to end on this mark here, and I measured that distance there. It was 1.5 inches. So I come over 1.5 inches here, and then took the same measurement from this 1 inch mark here, or my end of my gate on this side, and I come back 1.5 inches to get where I'm going to set my other brace. But I got that set in there and just got a clamp holding it in there right now. And then what I'm going to do is just going to come over here and take my pencil and just mark them right there. And then do the same thing for this bottom one. I'm going to put B for bottom and T for my top right there. So I'm just going to pull that down and cut it, and then I'll screw it in place, and then I'll get the other side done after this one. Alright, I'm going to try to keep the screws on the side here that gets covered up by the pickets. didn't like the way that lined up, so I'm gonna redo it here. Should have done it that way to begin with. Alright, that looks better. Now I'm going to move over to this other side. So on my pickets here, I'm just going to start right here on my mark on my latch side and work my way towards the hinge side. I'm just gonna use screws to attach these instead of nails. That way, if I need to, I can take it apart easier. So I'm just going to stack my pickets all the way across.
Time for heaven. 6, 7, I'm leaving. Demons negotiate, but my soul only wants to levitate. Push pull at heaven's gate. No time to wait.
I just went in there and ripped the last 2 pickets to go in here. I just measured my distance here and divided it by 2. So I took my pickets in there and ripped them down to whatever measurement I had there. So I can get these put in here.
Time for heaven. 6, 7.
Another thing, when I'm screwing these in here, I'm making sure I come through here and hit my angle, my cross bracing too. Alright, so I got too big of a gap there, so I'm going to try to even this up a little bit.
Secrets out on a gurney, wanna litigate my sins, prosecute like an attorney, but I tap dance right in front of the jury, and I pray to the judge, please show me mercy, cause I don't know where I'm gonna end up in between.
Actually, since that's got a knot in there, I'm just going to go to the table saw and cut another one that's a little wider at the top and the bottom. I got my pickets installed now. Bring you in here, kind of show you. I've got an inch gap here in the middle. That leaves me room for my latch system to go in there. And then on the hinge side, I left a 1/2 inch gap. To hang that gate, I'm going to use some 8-inch strap hinges. I got a 3/16 drill bit. I'm just going to pre-drill them. That way I can run these lag bolts through there. The lag bolt, these are the bolts that come with the hinges. So I'm just going to take this straight edge right here and line up with my fence side. Now I'm just running them in there with a 13mm socket. So I've still got these gates attached with the screws on the back side. I'm going to put my hinges on and you just go around the back side and take the screws out. I don't know if I don't think I'm going to cut the rails. I built a small walk-through gate over there by the house, and I didn't see a need to cut the rails on it. I cut the rails, but afterwards I didn't see a need to, so I'm just going to cut the rails in the middle. So I'm going to get my other 5 hinges put on, and then I'll bring y'all back in here and show you what I'm doing after that. I've got my hinges on there now on both sides. I also went around on the inside of the fence and took out them temporary screws that was holding the rails together. So now I'm going to try to take and I need to come in here and cut this section of rail out. On all 3 rails I need to cut that out. I think I'm going to try to use my oscillating tool. I used my circular saw on the other side and it kept wanting to bind up, so I'm going to try to use this, see if it does it any better. So on the back side of my gates here, I need to put a filler piece in here on the bottom and the top. That way I have something for my cane bolts to go through to hold it to the ground. And it'll give me something to attach my handle and latch to. I need to do that on both gates. I got my blocks in there to attach my latches to. This latch right here, I got to put it in the center because this bolt that comes in and catches that's got to be on this center rail. So I'm just going to put this in there, kind of center it up. I'm going to center it up on that rail right there, and then come back and pre-drill my holes here. I'm just going to use a ratchet and a socket on here, that way I don't strip them out. Now to set this in here, you just use the lag bolts. I'm just going to pre-drill it, and you center it up on that center. It drills into that center rail right there. These are the same lag bolts that the hinges went on with. So the handle goes on the same way right there. But I'm going to use some 1/4 20 carriage bolts that are 2.5 inches long. We're going to bolt them all the way through. To help that carriage bolt sit far enough to get a socket on it, I'm just going to hit it with a hammer and knock it on in there. Hit it with a hammer, that way give me enough threads on the back side to get this washer and nut on there. Alright, so all that's left is to put the cane bolts on the inside. I'll bring it in here and show you. You can see right here I left this bottom rail long and the top rail long. That way when the gate's shut, it just kind of helps keep it in line. That way when I come in here and put my cane bolts, it holds itself in line. So I'll go get my cane bolts and get them put on there. So attach these cane bolts here. They came with metal screws, so I decided not to use them. I just took some of my screws that I use for them steel posts, them lifetime steel posts screws, and just painted them black. So I'm going to use them to attach this in there. Take and flush this bottom up with the bottom of my 2x4 right here, and kind of center it up on this 2x4 running up and down. To get these second ones in here, I'm just going to go 6 inches right there. Set these at 6 inches. Then I'm going to set this top one. I'm just going to pull it up until the bottom of that rod is about even with the bottom of the gate right there. So I've got them cane bolts installed now. I just kind of took my hammer and a block of wood and drove them in the ground just a little bit. The ground's hard. They won't hardly go in the ground. Now I'm going to come back through and cut my bottom rail and my top rail up there. And then I should have a fully functioning gate after that. Alright, there she is, finally finished. I still got to come in here so where these cane bolts go in the ground here, I'm going to have to get some sections of pipe and run them in the ground just to help keep them pinned in the ground there. This is what it looks like from the inside. I don't think it looks too bad. I probably could have done away with a little bit smaller gap here. I left a 1/2 inch because that seemed to be what people was doing in the videos I watched. So I could probably done away with a little bit smaller gap here, but I left my rails long. I didn't come back and trim them off. I think that helps with the look. Plus it don't hurt anything being there. Don't hurt the function of the gate any. So I left them long on both sides. You can see where I drove the screws in. But they don't hurt anything.